says Israel is trying to divide Syria and has vowed never to allow that to happen. In a televised address, he singled out Druze minorities, stating that protecting their rights is his government's priority. Saagar's speech came after a day of intense Israeli bombing.
So what's up, y'all? Welcome back to this channel. So I wanted to, you know what? I have not clipped yet about what's going on in Syria with Israel attacking. I mean, Israel claims to be defending the Druze community by attacking Damascus. It's just really absolutely odd to me. But with that said, we're going to get into this clip from Al Jazeera and have a couple, other sources of information that are discussing what's going on in Syria and how Israel absolutely, I mean, I have no other way to say it, but it is a little out of control. So let's go ahead. Please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button and the notification bell. Thank you to everybody that lands on these videos. Thank you so much.
Well, this was the scene from Qatar a few hours ago, showing the latest Israeli strikes. Syria's foreign ministry has condemned what it says is Israel's aggression against civilian facilities. There's been international condemnation as well. The six-member Gulf Cooperation Council, which includes Saudi Arabia and Qatar, says Israeli attacks are a flagrant violation of Syria's sovereignty and a breach of international law.
Israel is using all means to sow discord and conflict, disregarding the fact that Syrians, throughout their long history, have rejected all forms of separation and division. Possessing great power does not necessarily guarantee victory, just as triumph in one battlefield does not ensure success in another.
Now, so with this, now, first of all, I think it's absolutely hilarious that Al-Julani, I call him by his name. What do they call him? Al-Sharar. So the background on Al-Julani is that Al-Julani was a Al-Qaeda, soldier. We funded Al-Julani and we placed him to be, in charge of Syria, with the takedown, unfortunately, with the regime change of al-Assad, it became that Al-Julani was now the leader of Syria, who said he had no problems with Israel, would basically do whatever Israel wants. I want to be extremely professional, okay? But wanted to keep good ties with Israel, did not go against Israel, only to, at this point, be attacked by Israel. So it had a lot of people confused and asking questions. We do have the breaking point. So I have clips from other channels that were talking about this. And that's good to see, because a lot of people are not covering this. And this is a serious escalation. Let me just see something real quick.
Depending on who you ask, Lex Friedman is a super genius, former professor at MIT, truth-telling podcast aficionado. Other people...
Syria's president.
Turning now to Syria, some extraordinary developments. Israel bombing the capital of Syria after major violence breaks out in Sawida province. We're going to get to all of the details, but let's just take a look at some of the video. I mean, it's absolutely extraordinary. You're watching a Syrian newscaster there broadcasting live from the capital. After right behind her, you can watch Israeli airstrikes in the middle of Damascus. And by the way, these are not secret strikes like normal. These are claimed and public proclamations from the IDF, including the command and control network of the Syrian General Staff, as well as the Syrian Presidential Palace. So you're watching this is wild, out in the open. And you may ask, so what the hell is actually going on here? Now, I've done my best to, it's very, very complicated, so everybody stick with us in terms of the exact TikTok of how this all went down. We got to start at the very, very beginning. You'll remember that the Assad regime fell. Well,
I'm going to allow Saagar and Jetty to break it down in a more concise fashion, because I'm not going to act like I am some sort of expert on the matter, because I am not, right? But I am doing my research as well, and I want to bring as much of I want to be in the best quality production to you guys. Okay, and when I say production, I mean the best quality of information to you guys. That's what I want to do, and I'm learning more as I go along, because I told you I'm coming back to the geopolitical world about a lot of things, and I'm learning more as I'm going. I'm not trying to make this about me. I just like to explain to the audience. This one is a little complicated, though simplistic enough that you don't bomb a city and claim that you're doing it to protect, you know what I mean, a tribe. But let's let Saagar go ahead and give us some more.
After the Assad regime fell, the Israeli government claimed a, quote, indefinite presence inside of Syria past the Golan Heights, further expanding their borders. Basically, the justification was they need to protect their own border at the Golan Heights, as well as the Druze population, who they have long had a close relationship with. Okay, so let's put things out that way. That's ever since the Israeli government, or the Assad regime fell, and now the new power, Al-Qaeda, is in charge of the state. After Al-Qaeda kind of came into power of the state, there has been a tacit alliance between the Israelis and Al-Qaeda. They met recently. There was supposed to be normalization between the two governments. Much of the sanctions from the U.S. government were taken off. So everything seemed to be on a road of normalization and of a tacit agreement where the new Al-Qaeda government is going to recognize Israeli sovereignty over.
And the way that Saagar is explaining this is perfect. To say the Al-Qaeda government is exactly the way a person should hear it, because once again, Al-Qaeda is one of our proxies that we have funded and we continue to fund, like stop. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, these are American creations. And it is time for Americans to know this, because there are a lot of Americans who still don't know this, but these are our creations. You know, the terrorists, the Terrys that they tell us about. Terrys are coming. We've made them. We created them. You know what I'm saying? We created the Mujahideen that became the Taliban. It's a very toxic thing that, and when I say we, I'm not talking about the American people, but our establishment, they are very good at creating their villains.
This new portion. All right, so let's start there. However, the Druze population, of course, is allied with Israel, and there's also been calls within Israel to basically further their attacks on the Syrian government, and all of this kind of came to a head in the last couple of days. So let's start with this. Let's put this up there on the screen. So late on July 11th, Bedouin gunmen ambushed a vegetable truck on the Damascus-Suwaida highway, beating the driver and stealing the truck and its contents. The next day, Druze gunmen kidnapped 8 Bedouins as retaliation, triggering the Bedouin gunmen to kidnap 5 Druze in response. By the way, this is what a lawless state looks like. So next, July 12th, saw a flurry of, quote, tit-for-tat kidnappings amid attempts by local notables to negotiate a calm down. Tensions and conflict between these clans and the Druze date back for years, tied to drugs and the weapons trade, control of smuggling routes, and land ownership. On July 13, negotiations break down. Armed conflict erupts in Suwaida between Bedouin clans and Druze militias. Druze militias start getting shelled. Bedouin areas are besieged. 30 people are dead. 100 are injured in 24 hours. All right, now continuing. On July 14th, after attempts to mediate talks, Syria's new government intervenes. These are Al-Qaeda forces, right? Deploying military and interior ministry forces into Suwaida to, quote, enforce order and put an end to the internal fighting. Then, as these new government forces, the Al-Qaeda forces, enter the city, they are ambushed by the Druze militiamen. 10 soldiers are rounded up, executed, and used for celebratory photos, and 8 other soldiers are taken hostage, stripped and marched to a nearby village in their underwear. All of them are believed to have been dead now. That's when shit really kicks off. Intense fighting ensues. Government forces advance into the city. The Druze militia starts shelling the Bedouins, killing a child, apparently, a photo of which gets sent around everywhere in terms of anti-Sunni mockery. This is all according to Charles Lister. He's a long-time Syria analyst, and he speaks the language as well and has translated all this. Then what happens is, quote, as fighting rages on, Israel begins drone strikes there, first targeting the Syria militia armored forces and pickup trucks of the Interior Ministry. So eventually what happens is there's a negotiated ceasefire on July 15th between the Druze, the Christian, the Civil Council, who invited the government forces to secure order. However, one Druze cleric this, I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name. He is allied with Israel, and he's the person who's like, no, we're not doing that. And that's when the Israeli strikes start to go into full effect. Israel strikes not only the Syrian government, basically saying, hey, I'm the boss here. You do what we tell you to do. Some Druze, IDF soldiers, and others start flooding to the Israeli-Syrian border. They tried to smuggle weapons and to go into Syria. It's basically what they were trying to do is instigate like a full-on rise up and have complete autonomy over there that Israel has control over. Many of them are actually raising the Israeli flag over the territory. So this is all, the reason I went through exactly that is if you were looking at the Israeli version, you're like, oh my God, the Syrian al-Qaeda forces just came in and they're massacring all these Druze. It's a little bit more complicated than that, isn't it? Because they came at the invitation of the interior forces, but this one Druze cleric and militia leader who is allied with Israel was like, no, we're not doing that. And actually, we need Israel to come in and show the new Syrian government who's boss. All of that escalates to the point where they're, bombing the presidential palace. Now, let's just diminish this. They're like, oh, we're doing it to prevent, they literally said, we're doing it to prevent a genocide. Assad killed how many people in Syria over the last 15 years?
I'm not going to get into that because when it comes to Assad, I feel like I'm always saying, I'm doing my research. I am. I remember being propagandized completely about the Syrian civil war, 2011. I remember the Facebook propaganda that took place on me. And let me tell you something, it left me, I don't know, almost not vandalized, but it just leaves you just like feeling like, dag, man, like y'all don't have to keep pulling at my heartstrings to lie to me. And there were a lot of lies told to us in America. So before I go there, like I'd rather speak to somebody who's like on the ground, who is Syrian. Okay. So anyway, but coming back to the point of everything that he just explained, I'm glad that he went through all of that explanation because it's okay for us to say that maybe we don't know everything. In 2003, when we went into Iraq, it felt wrong to me, but then I didn't want to ask too many questions because I was like, well, everybody else seems to think that this is what we're supposed to do. So I guess then this is what we're supposed to do. And at the time I was 20 and I just remember just being like, I don't want to sound dumb. I don't want to, look like I don't know what's going on. I should be able to understand this. And I simply just don't because we were lied to. So there was a lot that was left out. And this is the same thing in a situation like this. It's like, I'm glad he explained it the way he did. And then it just shows you it still doesn't add up. And that's okay that you noticed that because how do we go from a skirmish all the way over here that we're getting a ceasefire to Israel dropping bombs in Damascus?